There is a new kind of dry spell moving through dating culture, and it seems to have nothing to do with moral beliefs. More young single women are choosing celibacy, not because they're waiting for marriage, but because they're exhausted by the way dating feels today. And I believe this is from Vice. Now, the first mistake that this author, Ashley Fike, makes is it's not young women, it's women are finally realizing their sexual mortality. Of course, a lot of this does come from the, let's say, less than favorable discourse around the red pill. When you realize your fertile years have a ticking timer behind them, there's going to be a changing of your morality, a changing of your values in this regard. And you start to realize that what you could attract in your youthful, fertile years is starting to dwindle, and women are panicking. Women are panicking so much that that they are starting to go about this celibacy route. Because there seems to me, at least in my estimation, there's some confusion around the situationship topic. So I'm just going to read on further here. This individual, Mandana, 29, told the New York Post that she spent 4 years without sex after too many disappointing, and pay attention to the vernacular choice here, situationships. She deleted her dating app, skipped dates, and used the time to reset her relationship patterns. Now, here's the big confusion that a lot of modern women have around situationships. A large majority of women believe that if they are attractive enough to sleep with, this also means that they are attractive enough to be offered exclusivity, a relationship, protection by that same partner. This isn't the case. I'm going to kind of detail a little bit later, but I'll give you a preview here that it's men that gatekeep exclusivity and it's women that gatekeep sexual intimacy. I do believe, and this is where I differ from a lot of the red pill rhetoric that unfortunately plays on your emotions, guys, by the way. A lot of these videos and even articles like this have been reviewed by individuals who use this as an opportunity to bash a lot of modern women, to spread, you know what it is? It's really emotional instigation. It's supposed to get you riled up. Be very, very conscious when this happens to you, by the way, because it happens to me as well. A couple of videos later, and suddenly the YouTube algorithm is suggesting you videos that are gonna make you angry, irritated, anxious, depressed, and otherwise frightful of the modern Western market. Here's kind of my solution, and where I believe we have to accept a little bit of responsibility in this regard, because as much as most men will hate to hear this, an ideal partner shouldn't offer you sexual intimacy without a strong prospect of exclusivity. What am I trying to say here? If you are engaged in the modern Western sexual market, or let's just say the modern sexual market, and you are going about dating and sleeping with women, you should be very, very careful about what your actions are perpetuating in terms of this red pill narrative. I've always found it a massive contradiction, massive hypocrisy for some of these channels to go about espousing the kind of rhetoric degrading rhetoric towards modern women in this regard, and not take a certain amount of culpability or responsibility in this regard. Meaning, if a woman chooses, here's a reversal here. Most men need to be conscious of the fact that if a woman offers you sexual intimacy without negotiating exclusivity, there is always an assumption, whether she is conscious of it or not, by the way, that this is going to be reciprocated in the form of a relationship. Now, if most men had this at the forefront of their mind, it would dramatically change who men would sleep with. Because I can certainly say for myself, more in my younger years, kind of, 18 to 24, 23, I would say, the women I had intercourse with during those years, not all of them, but a large majority of them, I would not offer exclusivity to. And it perpetuates this really toxic unhealthy culture on both parties, by the way. So here's essentially what I think we should be doing and what we can offer. And I'll read on this regard before I get to this conclusion, because what I have to tell you is going to really change the way that you approach the dating dynamic. And it's going to be kind of a happy medium between, the red pill and also taking a little bit of, what would you say, moral virtue, value, and ground you more fundamentally in respects to your sexual energy, because we recognize this is an asset as well if you are a fan of my channel. Hookup culture doesn't benefit women in any way, it only benefits men. I disagree. I think hookup culture for men is equally as terrible as it is for women. As I just prefaced, our sexual energy, our libido, our vitality is an asset. You should look at it the same way as you would look at your finances, right? If you're going to have intercourse with a woman, there is an investment there. And some investments are not good ones. What began as a 1 year stretch stretched into 4. The first 6 months to a year were so incredibly hard, she says. As humans, we thrive on connection and emotional vulnerability. This goes 2 ways. A general social survey report that Americans between the ages of 18 to 29 who went a year without sex doubled from 2010 and 2024. The Institute for Family Studies found that sexlessness among young women rose by half during that same period. Many of these women say they're turning away from hookup culture because the intimacy started feeling like a transaction. Now, on the surface, I actually think this is good, but I'm a little bit skeptical of the data because many of these anecdotes are coming from women who are coming to the end of their fertile years. And I'm wondering if this is more of a reflex because of, what would you say, that they're realizing their sexual mortality, that their fertile years are behind them, or perhaps they're becoming a little bit more sexually conscious, as I hope most men, especially if you're watching this channel, are so as well. This particular individual, Kayla, told the Post that she's using the approach that hookup culture has ruined dating because it almost feels like the end goal is sexual intercourse. So she said people are so trained now just to ask you to come home with them. She prefers to be upfront early. I just say it bluntly, that lets me feel in charge and helps me spot who's looking for something real. Of course, I think this would have enormous more value if she was younger, because as I mentioned just a moment ago, I don't know whether this is authentic or it's reflexive. It's a reaction from her realizing her sexual mortality. But I do like this approach. A lot of you may, argue against this idea again, if you let so-and-so hit on the first date, and now you're taking this approach, it seems a little bit contradictory. Why me as a higher value man? Because you'll hear this on the red pill rhetoric. Why as a higher value man I'm not getting access to sexual intercourse when you let somebody else in your younger years get access to it very, very quickly? But on the other side of the coin, the way that you have to think about it is would your future wife and mother of your children sleep with you before you offered her exclusivity? That's a really difficult question. Well, it's not a difficult question for me to answer, because the answer is she wouldn't offer sexual intercourse without some kind of prospect, maybe not offering exclusivity on the table, but certainly having a serious conversation about that. But it'd be interesting to see what your particular answers are to that question. So here's my general rule. I think if you're a man of any years watching this now, this is how I think you kind of navigate between the quite degenerate red pill nowadays, but also being grounded in your principles. And it is this: only have sex with women you would offer exclusivity to. This really changes the dynamic in which you approach dating. I mean, you can have a date every day of the week if you want. I see no moral contradiction in that. But if you sleep with 7 women in a week, that's where things start to get, that's how you start perpetuating this mess that we're in right now. If you approach in this way, it means that you are no longer going to be doing one-night stands, no promiscuity, no hookup cultures, no sex parties or swinging, no degeneracy, nor deviancy. I personally think that all of this is a waste of time, waste of energy, and waste of your money. If you're being brutally honest with yourself, I'm sure you would agree. Unfortunately, the red pill fails to recognize that sexual licentiousness on our part equally contributes to the state of sexual immorality in women. It is men that lead and women that follow. So this has always been my frustration with these videos that get you angry and irritable and, very, very neurotic. Another maybe more extreme way to look at this is only have sex with women you'd be willing to have a child with. And I know that sounds very, very outlandish, but if you look at it very rationally, what the purposes of sex is for, fundamentally, procreation, it's very, very logical. But again, I think as a starting point, this one is a very, very good way to go. But I don't know, guys, I'm really tired of seeing these videos that put the spotlight on a lot of deviancy and degeneracy from our feminine counterpart. But, I really believe that if we're going to reset this particular course of the ship, we are the leaders, we are the captain, and we can steer it the right way, but it comes at the cost of controlling our sexual reflexes and just being a little bit more responsible with who we're sharing our bodily fluids with, our DNA with. I mean, surely that's the most compelling way to put it. Add on all the other benefits of less risk of sexually transmitted disease, better hygiene, cleaner, reducing your karmic debt if you're so spiritually inclined. But I don't know, guys. Are you equally as frustrated as me? Let me know in the comments below. And also we're doing another Discord live on Sunday, and you can join through the Patreon link below. See you on Sunday. Maybe we can talk about this in real time. Theories, facts, you let me know. Speak soon.